Rebecca, thanks so much for being here with me today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk a bit about your journey to policing, your background, what got you into this job, and how it's going so far. Because you've been a police officer how many years now?
I was sworn in January 2023.
Awesome. So you're coming up on 2 years from your swearing in. Excellent. Where'd you grow up and how did you get into policing?
I grew up in Squamish. Most of my life was there. I kind of was born wanting to be a cop my whole life. I don't have any police people in my family. But when I was in elementary school, I had a really influential school liaison officer. He was an RCMP member out of Squamish, and Constable Audi, who did die on duty. Unfortunately, he got into a motor vehicle incident while on duty on the Sea to Sky, which I recall because he was our school liaison officer. They obviously had to make an announcement at our school.
Wow.
And but prior to that, he always showed up, did a lot of, we had the DARE program back then. I don't know if that still runs, but all those really cool things that I really loved. I remember being in his car probably the first time and just like absolutely idolized him and the job. And I just thought it was fantastic. So yeah, always wanted to do it. Always looked up to police growing up. So that kind of kept me going. Ask anyone who knows me. They either pegged me to be a police officer, or as soon as they said, "Oh, what do you want to do when you grow up?" and I said that, they were like, "Obviously." I can't. So I haven't been able to find any other job that.
Were you one of those kids that would dress up in a police costume or uniform, or play cops and robbers, or
cops and robbers for sure?
Okay.
Yeah, I was always a cop, never the robber. No, I was more of a Batman costume kind of gal. Yeah,
I mean, that's
Batman was my jam.
Fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so then did you do anything throughout high school, university that took you in the policing direction? Or?
Yeah, actually I got in grade 11, 10, I was able to, I applied for the RCMP Youth Academy that they ran, which is like a 10-day program. Up in
you got in?
Boonies. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I applied and didn't get in. Anyways.
Yeah, I was one of 5 females.
It was also 1995. Things were different back then. Go ahead. You were one of how many females?
I was one of 5 females.
Amazing.
Yeah, of 50
wow.
recruits.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm. It was a really, really great experience, and another experience that absolutely solidified that this was exactly what I wanted to do, as nerdy as that is.
Yeah, it's great.
They make you do a night shift, and I loved it.
Wow.
I still love night shifts to this day. But
you can have all of them.
I honestly, if I could just do straight nights, that's what I would do.
I'm old and tired and can barely make it through, but that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that reinforced for you that idea that you wanted to do this job.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, from there, then how did it flow?
I always thought I was going to be in the RCMP.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I grew up in a town that had the RCMP, so I actually didn't really have a lot of knowledge about municipal policing. I was quite naive to that. So I thought the minute I left high school, I would be a depot, which it didn't work out that way. Mm-hmm. Life gets, in the way. And
I have a similar story, but
priorities change and
totally.
Family changes. So I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to move to wherever in Canada. And that kind of was throwing me off for a little bit. So I just was really lucky. I got into the health authority right out of high school. So I just worked in there for 10 years, making my way around in that world.
What were you doing for health authority? I forget.
It was kind of a mixture. Like I started in administrative stuff and then kind of just applied for jobs. The most relevant one out of it all was I became a tobacco enforcement officer.
Right.
So that's contracted out to the health authorities where we regulate all the tobacco and then what became vapor, so all the e-cigarette stuff, to retailers in your jurisdiction.
Weren't you like doing undercover busts or something?
I was, yeah. Well, not me. I mean, we got little kids, not little kids. We got like
literally got
teenagers, to go into
what?
stores and buy cigarettes and e-cigs.
You busted them.
Yeah, a lot of people still sell cigarettes to kids. Cigarettes, like straight up, Canadian classics.
Wow.
Yeah, which shocked me. I was like, oh, that kid's 14.
That's wild. Wow.
So yeah, that was like 6 years. I think I did that, which was really helpful. Kind of learning the ways of like issuing tickets. I had to go to court and represent myself when people disputed them. A lot of verbal de-escalation with people. Obviously, we weren't ever going hands-on. We didn't have those kind of powers, but that was a good experience to kind of learn how to deal with confrontation with people because they didn't want to get a ticket.
Totally. For selling cigarettes to children.
Yeah, and then argue with me that they weren't children.
Yeah. So then transition from health authority to policing. What did that look like?
That happened just kind of in the mid to tail end of COVID. I got reached out to by a civilian manager at West Van who knew me and knew my interest in policing. And she had a position as a civilian member or civilian staff member. So that was in our Freedom of Information department here. And that was a really good experience because that was probably the time where I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to end up being a police officer.
So you got hired by us,
I
right?
did,
As this
as
FOI.
a civilian, yeah.
Gotcha,
yeah.
Okay.
And that was, I thought it would be a good, in the administrative world, I had a lot of experience in that. I thought it would be good insight into whether or not I was kind of still interested in policing.
Had you let go of it? Like,
kinda,
where were you at that time? Yeah.
I think I maybe spent so much time being in kind of an the safe world, like sitting at a desk, in four walls, that I wasn't sure if I don't know if not confrontational, but I don't know if I had enough of the, I don't know how to call it, like the guts kind of thing for policing. I think I thought I needed to be more tough, or I needed to be more rough around the edges than I was. Then I was like, well, I don't really want to fight people. I don't really am interested in that.
And now, but okay, let's jump forward a little bit and you just speak to that real quick.
Yeah.
So now, having been a cop for a couple of years almost, how do you feel about that?
I'm the exact same as I was before.
So you're the same person.
Yeah.
But how are you in terms of being able to do all that stuff?
Like, I don't need to be more tough. I don't need to be rough around the edges. No, I learned that really quickly.
Yeah.
I actually feel like, I've learned that, in our teams of 10 or whatever our patrol teams are, you need that balance. I think that when you have a group of people and maybe that weight is maybe more on, strength and physical force, and maybe you are lacking in people who are able to verbally de-escalate somebody or build rapport with somebody, you can feel that imbalance in a call. So I'm quite happy that I didn't try to force myself into something that I wasn't.
Totally. Or give up on it because you didn't feel the confidence to be able to do some of that work that you don't know until you do it. And I'm going to say this now, that knowing you as well as I do and having worked with you and been on calls with you, that everything you bring as Rebecca, as a good communicator, and the experiences you've had in life have brought you to a place where you are an excellent police officer, especially when it comes to communication, rapport building, and showing people respect and compassion. So
thank you.
It's fantastic. I'm so happy that you kept up with it. Okay, so let's go back to you as a civilian staff member of West Van Police. What got you to decide to actually take the steps to apply as a regular member?
Looking at my window and seeing members go off to calls.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I probably was I was so envious.
Yeah.
The minute I stepped in this building, I was super envious about it. And then, especially when I saw them driving code off out from the department, I was like, I need to do that. I don't know why I'm not doing that. This is so silly. And then, in my job, obviously, I dealt primarily with reports. And so I got to get insight into kind of what are the calls that people are having and what's kind of going on. I was just like, I want to do that. That's needs to be me. So, it was a pretty quick decision.
Oh, it's so great. And we're so happy to have you. And I want to talk about then, so it's funny, you talk about being apprehensive because of your concern around being able to do some of that sort of nitty gritty, physical type work. I wonder if in a way it kind of manifested a unique experience for you in your Block 2, but as part of your police academy experience. So For those that don't know, the police academy is broken up into 3 blocks of training. So block 1 is the academic side of things in an institution in New Westminster, the Justice Institute of British Columbia, and where police officers learn everything, the theory of, and then they go through different role player situations with actors where they apply some of that theoretical knowledge. They do driver training, firearms, and then in block 2, for around 3 months or so, they're on the road training real life with under the guidance of a field training officer who's critiquing them and helping them along, coaching them along, and then they go back to the JI for block 3 where they do more school stuff, then they graduate. So for you in your block 2 experience, you had, probably a few things when I think back come up that were pretty intense, to say the least. There's one that stands out in particular, and I was wondering if you'd be able to speak a little bit about that and then how you manage that as a new recruit, totally new to policing, trying to find your way, and then this happened. Yeah.
I think at the time I didn't realize how short I had actually been in block 2, but I think it was like my 16th or 17th shift. It was quite early, but once you start this whole process, it's quite a whirlwind when you are going through block 1, block 2. So I didn't even realize until I kind of reflected on it.
It's all a bit of a blur, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I was working a night shift with my field trainer, and we attended a call for a possible impaired driver on the side of the road. And so when we arrived, the vehicle was there with the driver and stuff. And we were just trying to, it was actually a pretty good learning experience for me because we had to problem solve a few things when it came to an impaired investigation, which you learn very quickly in this job. Impaireds are actually quite a challenging file to have with the way that the system works.
Absolutely.
So it was a good experience because we had, minimal risk to safety. The car wasn't in motion, right? We weren't on the road kind of being like, oh, someone's swerving all over the place. So it was really good for that. Ended up being a lot bigger of a learning opportunity, but we were trying to conduct the impaired investigation and determine basically if this vehicle was going to be safe to drive away from this area because it had a flat tire, and the tow truck was working on that tire. So very quickly, while we're trying to take this driver, unexpectedly, the driver just pulled a gun out of their waistband and shot at us. We're all fine. Everyone involved is actually safe, well, and alive. So we're all very grateful for that. Mm-hmm. There was no injuries to anybody on scene. Mm-hmm. So it happened very quickly, very unexpectedly. There was no indication that would have happened. We got a lot of calls where people think they see weapons or there may be weapons involved, and then at least you have that information going into a file or going into a scene. But this one we didn't. So that was a quick change to that call.
No kidding. So I think there's a lot that has come out of this, and we've spoken about it. You and I've spoken to others about it. And I wasn't there myself, so I don't know exactly how it went. But I think what I'm picking up from you, one thing is that situations may appear one way and then quickly shift to something entirely different, which may include escalation when it comes to levels of violence. And in this case, this person pulled out a gun and actually fired at you and your partner, which is not something that we anticipate, but we do train for and we try to plan for as best we can. Having been through that now, can you tell me, did it even cross your mind when you were there? Did you think that was even a possibility? You're a block 2 recruit, you're brand new, you're in your 16th shift. Yeah. You're trying to remember everything. You're trying to remember how to talk to people, learn how to talk to people. Yeah. You're focusing on an impaired investigation. And all of a sudden, a gun comes out and a shot is fired. So, what's going through your mind at that time? Or did you have time to process it in the moment?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually quite surprised. Block 1, you would do a lot of training for, firearms and risks and things like that. they're all in imitated scenarios. So, you can only practice those to a certain degree, really, right? Quite surprised at how effective my muscle memory was, which I'm grateful for. It does, go to show that practice does work. And running these scenarios and things like that is important, even if they're kind of like fake, right? So, things just happened, and I can't say that I had a lot of ability to think properly during the time. But, once the initial shock kind of subsided, and the risk was very quickly lower, there was other things we had to deal with on scene. And was surprising even in that sense. Like once a threat's been eliminated in the sense that like it's no longer an active threat, you realize all the other important things that are happening on a scene, which just you flow into, right? It's this person, like there's another person. Okay, well now I need to get that person in custody because I don't know I didn't expect that. I don't know what's happening over here now. Then we have innocent bystanders on scene as well. Okay, are they okay? And you start really quickly realizing that there's so much happening.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was a standout for me, and probably something that could be better looked at in training, and especially in like recruit training, is your own safety, right? So having to do like what we call a wet check for ourselves, which is, checking to see if you've been injured and if there's basically anything wet coming off of you, which would be your blood. Mm-hmm. So, that was probably one of the more eye-opening experiences of the whole thing, was having to do that on myself, because you do it fake at training and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yes, I'm doing the wet check.
You totally disregard it.
Yes.
And in training you're just like, man, okay, yeah, I did it, I'm fine, right? But when you're in a real situation, it's quite a surreal experience to actually be combing your body and like fearful that, there's might be a hole in me and I'm just in too much shock to realize like I can't feel it.
So let's talk about that then, in terms of your mental health and the journey now from the incident, going, being off the road for a bit, because of direction from the department and other investigative bodies that are involved, oversight, and then coming back on the road and feeling, how you felt about that. So what did that look like? How long were you off for?
So I took a block. So I had my 4 days off. Then I took the next block off, kind of because I had to do interviews with the IAO. I had to do interviews with our major investigations team, being that the type of file it became. And then, needed a little bit of time off to kind of recover mentally. I think if I look back on it slightly, I probably should have taken more time off. Mm-hmm. Like I was good to come back to work, but I think more time off probably would have just been more effective. But it's a challenging balance when you're in block 2. There's a lot of, you want to do well. I wanted to do well. I shouldn't speak for everybody. I wanted to do well. I didn't want to miss too many
But that's
shifts,
the other piece
right?
to this, is that you're right, that you're in the midst of your police academy training, and your block 2 is only X amount of weeks. And now this happens and you have to deal with this and only this, and then, try to recover mentally and perhaps physically, and try to get your mindset back into learning how to be a police officer. I can imagine it was probably overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of unknowns, and then am I going to graduate the academy?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? I don't want to get set back too far. I have more learning to do. Mm-hmm. But also I was just involved in a very significant incident that most police officers will not confront in an entire career, let alone in their block 2 of police academy training. So talk to me a little bit about then reintegrating on the road, being back. How did you feel, and how are you doing today?
Yeah, like coming back I was happy to come back. And I think this is where, again, you don't know things until you look back on it, for me at least. That's why I think I can look back and say I think I could have done with it maybe a little bit more, like maybe an extra block off kind of thing. I was definitely anxious to come back, but weirdly not because I had any fear for my safety. There was no, I wasn't concerned that this was going to happen again, or that weirdly wasn't even a thought. But I think it just comes with kind of like a post-traumatic incident where your brain might feel one way, but your body's going to react a different way. So I was anxious, but I was able to go out with a quite experienced officer the first shift back, which I was really happy about. And his position is one also where he deals with a lot of traumatic incidences. So he was a good resource to have, and he's a very calm being. So that was, I was quite happy about that. My main FTO ended up leaving the department. Coincidentally, just he got a new job. So not that he wasn't going to be a good resource to have when I came back. He just literally wasn't here. So that was good. I had a nice kind of ease into work. But as you know, with our job, you never know what you're getting each day. And the first day back, I ended up in a call where a CEW had to be deployed. So, you know, it's...
And I thought of you. I think did I check in that day too?
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I know. So you end up, you know, you think, my first half of my day was lovely. We had a really nice day. And then, yeah, I mean, stuff happens. You're in the area. You need to support your members. So
all of a sudden you're tasering people.
So then, yeah, we ended up in an altercation with somebody who was kind of in a drug psychosis. And that happens. And yeah, so, you know, it's...
Did that set you back, or did that seem to impact you anymore because of how you're feeling? Or, I mean,
maybe it was a good, like, Band-Aid ripoff. I hadn't also yet been in a CEW deployment, so, you know, I'm just checking boxes off.
Done, right?
Yeah.
Just get her done all up front, get it out of the way. Yeah, wow, good for you. I mean,
think there's a little bit of I think I had a fear that the next altercation I come into, will I like freeze or flight kind of thing? I was a little bit hesitant, like nervous that might happen due to any, you know, kind of PTSD response. Sure. But I didn't.
Good for you.
So I was happy about that. And I think that was kind of one of my bigger anxious kind of feelings about coming back to work, was just like, are my responses going to be different now because of what happened?
Yes. And it's amazing if we go back. And so you just said so far it hasn't, right?
So far it hasn't.
And if we go back, though, to what you're saying, pre-policing and being nervous of whether or not you could do these things, you can clearly do these things because you've been tested in so many ways. So well done. I'm so happy you've been able to push through this, and that it hasn't impacted you so much so that you're having to take more time, and you know that if you did need it, then you would take it. I hope that you know that, right? So wow. Okay, well, thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, of course.
Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about now you as a police officer. So you're a couple of years into this job. You've had these incidents, these very significant incidents in your experience so far. But how are you feeling as a police officer? So as Rebecca, who you shared as this young child wanting to get into policing, taking the route that you did, getting fired up about the job, and then being able to settle into just being Rebecca as a police officer. How are you doing? How do you feel? What fires you up? What do you love doing as a police officer now?
I mean, I'm good. I love it.
Perfect.
I still love it. I still love night shifts. I mean, I do enjoy like interacting with people. Like I generally do, even if it's people who aren't happy to see me, which happens. I don't think I really have a specific call type that I've like, you know, I know there's some people who just like love certain calls. I don't think I've really kind of landed on anything yet. I have gathered a fair amount of impaired investigations, funny enough. So maybe that's going to be my niche. I don't know. But I just love kind of driving around and finding stuff. I get to do more of that than I expected. I think I thought that they would be like, we do go, you know, call to call or things like that. But we actually also kind of do get a good balance of being able to just drive around and look for stuff and kind of like sneak up on stuff. And that's fun.
That proactive, the opportunity to be proactive and find things. And there's enough work going on out there if you're motivated to go out and find it. Or set up projects, you know, you can definitely find it. So
I just got plainclothes qualified.
Excellent.
So I'm really excited for that because, you know, I think there's a slight advantage, not to be controversial, but I do think there's a slight advantage where like if you and I are in plainclothes.
I'm a cop.
Yeah, in the mall.
Hey, there's the cop.
Yeah. you're going to stand out a little bit more. I mean, you are tall, but
I'll probably be wearing a plaid shirt and cargo pants as well.
Well, same, but even than that.
Okay, right, fair. Yeah, okay.
You know, I think I get the opportunity to blend in a little bit more when it comes to like, you know, things where we're in big crowds like malls and totally. Even our kind of just like business district on Marine Drive. So I'm really looking forward to that because I do get, even in uniform, I can kind of sneak up on a fair amount of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm really looking forward to being able to like kind of sneak around a little bit more when people aren't
so sneaky.
Directly. Yeah.
I love that you said sneak about 10 times. It's all about being sneaky. But yeah, in plain clothes, you can find and observe more, you know, especially when it comes to property crime, right? Yeah. Or getting an eye on a house or certain situations that require you to be a bit more covert. So I'm super happy that you got qualified yesterday at the range because I was there.
Yes.
And now you can go out and have some fun in a different way. And that's what's, I think, so fun about this job is that you can do so many different things. And that I think here, especially at West Van, we do offer more opportunities earlier on for younger people that are just getting into their careers, you know, 2, 3, 4-year members, where I think in other places you would have to wait a bit longer before you can even have an opportunity to go plainclothes. So I'm excited that you can now see if you like this. And you might not love it. I don't know. It might not be for you. And maybe you mentioned impairs. Maybe impaired investigations and traffic is more your thing in a more overt uniform capacity. So, but you don't know until you try it, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah, you as a police officer, what I see is just an even-keeled, really good cop. And I, you know, you talk about not, you know, knowing necessarily right now yet about what fires you up entirely, but you're doing a really good job, and I hope you know that because you're just a good, well-rounded person. And I just want to say this, that actually I'm wondering about this. You know, how's your experience been so far as Rebecca before policing and Rebecca now as a cop, Rebecca the cop? So, like, you strike me as somebody who, when you put on your uniform, you don't change who you are. You're just who you are. You're still the same compassionate, you know, hardworking, you know, person that you are probably day to day when you're not working. Is that fair to say? Or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And how old were you when you got hired?
That's a great question.
You just have to minus 2 years of your
I
age
was
right
like,
now.
how old am I now?
So, and I think that even at 29 versus like 24 is a difference too for some people when they, in terms of who you are, you know, as a person. And
I'm so glad that I didn't. I'm so glad I didn't go into it right out of high school. Yeah, I thought I would. Yeah. Like, I actually I'm a very different person than I was back then.
Yeah.
But I think I really valued my life experience that I got from then till now. And I think this was a great age for me to go in. Yeah.
I was 28 myself, and I feel that was, you know, 16 years ago-ish, and I was just then ready to do the job. And if I think back to my, you know, 24, 25-year-old Kevin, there's no way. He was an idiot. He was not prepared. So I want to switch gears a little bit again and talk about your involvement then in clubs. And I know you're part of our I forget it, Inclusivity. Belonging and Inclusivity Committee, which is a fantastic group of people that focus on ensuring that we are being an inclusive organization for both sworn and sworn and civilian staff members. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, and then any other clubs that you're part of.
So I got to join that committee actually both while I was a civilian, and then once I graduated and came back to the department as a member, which I'm happy about. I kind of wanted to, I think it was relatively, I think actually might have started around when I joined it when I was a civilian. It was a newly formed committee, you know, and it's an ever-changing topic about how our workplaces, police doesn't matter, you know, making efforts to be more inclusive, you know, it's just such a multi-layered kind of topic. In our kind of world, we have police, we have civilians, we're all working under one, we have dispatchers who work in a totally different location. Like, how are we, like, even blending these worlds together among the differences in people? I was motivated to join because I'm a gay person, so I'm kind of wanted to, I think there's always room for improvements in kind of like the LGBT Q2 plus community, how we can include more resources and even things like the bathroom topics, like all of that, right? Like I think that's really relevant. And, we don't get the opportunity to build these buildings we work in, but how can we make them more inclusive for everyone who's in them, which is a challenge, but, it's an important one to take on. So policy is changing, things like that, making sure that we're keeping up with what people need, and then reflecting that in our department kind of policies, procedures, things like that. So,
yeah, it's a fantastic group, and it's such an important conversation to continuously have when it comes to inclusive spaces and conversations and policies. And I love that we're getting into that as an organization and have been for a while now, and really paying attention to what we need to be doing, not just celebrating how well we're doing, but always looking for ways to improve.
It's not easy
on these things. No,
right? You come up with all these ideas, and then you're trying to implement them, and it's hard.
And everyone has a different understanding or a different, I think, idea of what it means to be inclusive, because it's often quite subjective. So what's important to one person is not necessarily as important to the other, but how do we, make sure that we're doing our best to be a generally inclusive and respectful organization.
And even thinking farther than what we have in front of us, what in our policies are reflecting our potential applicants that we don't even have yet, right?
Yes.
Like how can we, even if you're talking about like culture and religion, right? Are there anything that we're lacking, even though we don't have people who fall under certain categories? Let's
have a space that people can come to.
That we're already like, hey,
we're already there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it's so important. That's fantastic. And then you talked about and being an openly gay member yourself. I know we were talking about out on patrol.
Oh yeah, just
and
joined.
You're a recent member of that group, and talk to me about why that's important to you and what you hope to do, and maybe what you've done in uniform with the West Vancouver Police when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I met Out in Patrol, which is a group run through all departments in BC. And I met them at the North Van Pride at the Pier. I joined our community service team member and did a kind of a booth there for West Van. We were invited by the organizers of that Pride event. So I really wanted to join. I had never done an event like that. I live in North Van, so it was kind of important to me I wanted to be in uniform and representing, kind of my queerness and in policing with the community and my peers.
Why is that important to you? Talk about that.
Why is that? I don't know. I just, it's who I am. I think I never had negative experience. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't like out or things like that. So I never had a bad experience with, that blend between police and the queer community. Although I know it very much exists, and it is also, dependent on where we're talking, right? I know there's States has it, and that kind of will pour over into Canada, and it does affect, our relations as well.
I think it's fair to say, there's more vocal movements and more overt movements around the world and in North America, but I'm sure you'll agree that, when it comes to negative experiences, it takes but one closed-minded cop to be dealing with with a member or somebody from that community who identifies as queer or and to have a negative experience, and then it ruins it for them entirely.
And we experience that very often, right? And so I wanted to. So then I learned about Out on Patrol while I was there, because they had a booth, and I got to meet a couple of really fantastic other police officers who really I probably would never have met. I'm never, we're not meeting people from UBC and all these other cities because we're so far away from each other. So I got to meet them, and that was great. And I just liked the organization, and I wanted to be able to have opportunities to, one, meet more, queer identifying police officers, just for that kind of sense of community. It's nice to have that, and then be able to go to events and represent the police from a queer perspective, right? And hopefully continue to build positive relationships with the queer community, everybody in general, but people that I know I can identify with and relate to. And hopefully they can then relate to me and then ask me questions, right? Like if there's things that, they've struggled with or had bad interactions with other police officers, I'd like to hope that I'm a safe person that those people can come talk to, and get as best as I can, any of those questions answered or
I think it's so great. Like that, I love that. I love that. That's what's driving you, and that you're able to sort of just be yourself and connect with others. And maybe you've had similar experiences, or if nothing else, you can maybe change people's perspectives of the police. I think. It's so great, and we're so lucky to have these groups out there, and they're regional groups now, like you mentioned. So it's not specific to West Vancouver Police; it's other agencies, many other police agencies, law enforcement across the region. So that's really great. And then I want to end on this: a fun fact about Rebecca. So something that I love, and I don't know why it seems, I've always loved it. But you have been playing the bagpipes. How old were you when you started playing bagpipes?
8-ish. So
you were 8 years old.
20-something years.
20-something years playing the bagpipes. You're so amazing. We're so lucky to have you. We borderline abuse you now with our ceremonial events where we say, can we get Rebecca to play the pipes? Yeah. So talk to me about that and how it has or how we've supported you as an organization. I know that you do play with a local pipe band with another agency because they have a world-renowned pipe band. Let's just say it's a Vancouver Police pipe band. They're phenomenal and they're known around the world. I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but so talk about that experience for you so far.
I've been playing bagpipes my whole life, so it's really just an extension of me at this point. It's very much a part of who I am. I love being able to do it. I probably disregard it more than I should. Like I appreciate the kind words, and I'm just like, it's just another Tuesday.
I'm so proud always to see you leading us when we're marching.
I know, I need to I actually recognized that recently. I played for our Remembrance Day in West Van, which was my first. I've done a lot of things, but that was my first time in doing that in that kind of capacity. Wow. I've done a parade, but not solo and not leading, my community of policing, which is an honor, and it's a privilege to be able to do that. I was nervous. I don't neglect to say, like, I walk down the street and I've got all you guys behind me, like that matters to me. But actually after the fact, I got a very kind voicemail from an unknown community member who she never left her name or phone number, but she left me a voicemail on my work line because when I was doing the cenotaph portion of my bagpiping for the moment of silence, they had announced that I was Constable Rebecca Mair with West Vancouver Police. So I guess this person in the crowd had recognized that, and she called into the department the next day and left me a very kind voicemail, appreciating that I was the bagpiper, that I was a police member with West Van. And it kind of like snapped me back to not being so, I don't know.
You're so humble.
I know. I've just been doing it for so long. And I think when you do something for a little bit too long, I think you forget that it matters to people. Yeah. And so that was a super nice thing. And that really made me realize that, people are paying attention and they do like it. And it made me more enthusiastic to make sure that I, play well and look sharp. And,
well, you do. And, and you just keep doing you. Yeah. And I love that you are so humble.
I hate compliments.
About all of this. You hate compliments. You will continue to get them because you're doing a great job. I just gave you another compliment. And you said thank you. You're getting there. You just smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I always love talking with you around the office. I'm a huge fan, a huge supporter of you. I think you know that. I hope you know that. You're doing a great job. And I think you'll have a fulfilling career because you are just you and all that comes with that. And you need to continue to do that because it's a long journey. It's a long career. You will no doubt be challenged in different ways, emotionally and physically. Mm-hmm. But I have no doubt that you can handle it as good as you have, as well as you have to this point, because you're nailing it. You're doing great. So well done. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll do this again one day. All right. Take care.
Thanks.